The listening post on the moon called Thesor 7 was old. It had been built 300 years ago by the Velkari people. For all that time, it had done its job without any problems. It watched the dark spaces between stars. It listened for danger, and it sent messages to the Galactic Concord if anything bad appeared. Station Commander Yethis had served on this post for 12 years. She was good at her job. She kept the old machines running. She trained her crew well. She never expected to actually use the emergency beacon. In 3 centuries, no one had ever needed to use it. That changed on the day the Drakh came. Yethis was drinking her morning tea when the alarm started screaming. She dropped her cup and ran to the main control room. Her second officer, a young male named Keth, was already there. His face had turned pale gray, which meant he was very afraid. "What is it?" Yethis demanded. Keth pointed at the screen with a shaking hand. "Ships. Hundreds of them. Coming out of the Vorn Nebula." Yethis looked at the screen and felt her heart stop. The ships were not normal ships. They were twisted, ugly things. They looked like they were grown, not built. They had teeth and claws and weapons that pulsed with sick green light. "The Drakh swarm," she whispered. Every child in the galaxy knew about the Drakh. They were living ships, part machine and part monster. They did not talk. They did not trade. They did not make peace. They only consumed. In the last 1,000 years, they had eaten 17 civilizations, whole planets of people, gone forever. The Drakh had turned those people into fuel and materials for more ships, and now they were here. "How long until they reach the colony on Thesor 4? Yethis asked. Keth checked his numbers twice before answering. 6 hours, maybe 7. Thesor 4 had 2 million Velkari living on it. Farmers, teachers, children. They had no weapons. They had no warships. They were just ordinary people living ordinary lives. "Send a message to the Galactic Concord Defense Fleet," Yethis ordered. "Tell them we need help immediately." "Already trying," Keth said. "But the fleet is stationed in the Ormath system. That is 12 star systems away. Even at maximum speed, they cannot reach us for 3 days. 3 days. The colony would be dead in 6 hours. Yethis closed her eyes and made a decision. She walked to the back of the control room where an old console sat covered in dust. No one had touched this console in a very long time. It was the emergency beacon, meant only for the most desperate situations. "Commander, what are you doing?" Keth asked. "The emergency beacon sends a signal across multiple relay stations," Yethis explained. "It will reach every allied system at once. Someone might be closer. Someone might be able to help." She pressed her hand against the activation panel. The old machine hummed to life. Lights flickered. The console made strange noises that worried her, but she did not stop. She entered the emergency code and pressed the final button. The signal went out, but something was wrong. The console sparked and smoked. Warning lights turned red. Yethis stepped back as the machine made a terrible grinding sound. "The ionic storms last month," Keth said with horror in his voice. "They damaged the relay connections. The signal is not going where it should go." "Where is it going?" Yethis demanded. Keth worked frantically at his station. When he found the answer, he looked like he might faint. The signal bounced through an uncharted relay. It went into the quarantine zone. Yethis felt cold. Every species in the galaxy knew about the quarantine zone. It was a whole section of space that no one was allowed to enter. No one was allowed to contact anyone inside it. The great powers of the galaxy had agreed on this 200 years ago. The quarantine zone belonged to the humans. "Can we stop it?" Yethis asked. "Can we cancel the signal?" "No. It already went through. The message has been sent." Yethis sat down heavily in her chair. She had just made a terrible mistake. The Drakh were coming to kill everyone on Thesor 4, and she had accidentally called the one species that the entire galaxy feared more than the Drakh themselves. "Maybe they will not answer," Keth said hopefully. "Maybe they will ignore it. Maybe." Yethis agreed, but she did not believe it. For the next hour, she watched 2 nightmares approach. On one screen, the Drakh fleet moved closer to the colony. On another screen, her equipment watched the empty space near the quarantine zone border. Then she saw it. Something was moving in subspace. Something big. Something fast. "Commander," Keth said, his voice barely a whisper. "We are receiving a transmission. It is coming from the quarantine zone." "What does it say?" Keth listened to the message. His face showed an emotion Yethis could not read. It says, "Message received. Help is coming. Hold on," the humans had answered. Yethis did not know if she should feel relieved or terrified. She had called for help, and something was coming. But she had heard the stories about humans. Everyone had heard the stories. She looked at the Drakh fleet on her screen. Then she looked at the approaching signal from human space. 2 monsters were now heading toward her world, and she had invited one of them. 200 years ago, the galaxy discovered humanity. A Concorde exploration ship was mapping new star systems when it found a small blue planet orbiting a yellow sun. The planet was alive with radio signals and light pollution. Someone had built a civilization there. The explorers were excited. Finding new intelligent life was always a special moment. They watched the humans for several months before making contact. What they saw confused them. The humans were at war with each other. Not one war, but many wars happening at the same time in different places. They had weapons that could destroy whole cities. They had killed millions of their own kind over things like borders, resources, and ideas. The Concorde explorers had seen aggressive species before. The Thryn were warriors who loved combat. The Kasari had conquered 3 systems before joining the Concorde. Violence was not unknown in the galaxy, but humans were different. The Thryn fought with honor and rules. They would not attack civilians. They would not use certain weapons. War, to them, was almost like a sport with traditions. Humans had no such limits. They used poison gas on each other. They dropped bombs on cities full of innocent people. They built weapons, specifically designed to cause the most pain possible. And the most disturbing thing was how creative they were about it. Every generation invented new and worse ways to kill. When the Concorde made contact, the humans were friendly at first. They were excited to meet aliens. They wanted to trade and learn and explore together. But then the Concorde observers noticed something troubling. Within 5 years of receiving alien technology, the humans had taken it apart, studied it, and built weapons from it. Peaceful farming equipment became mining lasers that could cut through warship armor. Medical scanners became targeting systems. They did not even seem to realize they were doing it. It was just natural to them. The final decision came after the incident at Relay Station 12. A group of human criminals hijacked a Concorde cargo ship. The ship had 20 crew members and was carrying medical supplies. The Concorde sent a small fleet to stop them. The fleet had 5 warships against 1 cargo ship. It should have been simple. The humans won. They used the cargo ship's own systems in ways no one had imagined possible. They made the medical supplies into explosives. They turned the navigation computer into a weapon. When the battle ended, 3 Concorde warships were destroyed, and 2 more were badly damaged. The human criminals escaped with everything. The Concorde Council met in emergency session. The debate lasted for 3 days. Some wanted to destroy humanity before they spread into space. Others wanted to make them members of the Concorde and hope civilization would calm them down. In the end, they chose a third option: quarantine. The humans were not evil. Many of them were kind, creative, and wonderful. They made beautiful art and music. They loved their families. They could be brave and generous and good, but they were also dangerous in ways the galaxy could not handle. Their creativity, their refusal to give up, their ability to turn anything into a weapon, these things made them unpredictable. The Concorde decided it was safer to leave them alone. A barrier was placed around human space. Not a physical barrier, but an agreement. No species would contact them. No species would trade with them. No species would teach them how to travel faster than light. They would be left on their own to develop or destroy themselves. For 200 years, this worked. The humans spread to their nearby planets and moons. They had their wars and their peace. They grew and changed without any contact from the wider galaxy. Some Concorde members felt guilty about this, but most felt relieved. Now, sitting in her damaged station, Yethis understood why the quarantine existed. She had studied the histories. She knew the stories. And she had just broken the most important rule in galactic law. She had called the humans. Keth stood beside her, watching the sensors. The human ships will arrive before the Drakh reach the colony. What do you think will happen? Yethis shook her head. I do not know. No one has spoken to humans in 2 centuries. We do not know what they have become. The Drakh have consumed 17 civilizations, Keth said quietly. Maybe the humans are the only thing that can stop them. Or maybe we have called something worse, Yethis replied. She watched her screens. The Drak fleet was a swarm of twisted shapes, moving with hungry purpose. But her eyes kept returning to the other signal. The human ships were still far away, but they were moving faster than anything she had ever seen. They had clearly developed their own faster-than-light technology during the quarantine, and it was better than anything the Concorde had. That thought scared her more than the Drak, a species that creative, that determined, left alone for 200 years to develop without limits. What had they built? What had they become? The humans of 2 centuries ago had been dangerous enough. These humans had ships that moved like nothing in Concorde records. Yethis made a decision. She could not undo what she had done. She could not stop what was coming. All she could do was watch and hope. Record everything, she told Keth. Every sensor reading, every transmission. If we survive this, the Concorde will want to know what happened. And if we do not survive, she paused. Then someone should know how it ended. Keth nodded and began recording. 2 fleets were approaching. One came to destroy, the other came to help. But Yethis could not shake the feeling that she had made a terrible mistake. She had woken something that the galaxy had tried very hard to forget. The Drak reached Thessar 4 first. Yethis watched from her station as the swarm descended on the colony world. The first bombs fell on the northern continent, destroying 3 cities in minutes. Millions of her people died before they even knew what was happening. The Drak did not warn. They did not demand surrender. They simply started killing. Emergency signals flooded her communications. People were screaming for help. Mothers were calling for their children. Leaders were begging for someone, anyone, to save them. Yethis listened to all of it and could do nothing. The humans are still 20 minutes away, Keth reported. His voice was flat. He had stopped showing emotion an hour ago. There was too much horror to feel it all. 20 minutes, Yethis repeated. In 20 minutes another 1,000,000 people would die. The Drak deployed their ground forces. These were not soldiers like the Concorde used. These were monsters grown for one purpose. They had claws that could cut through metal. They had mouths that could eat anything. They walked through cities and consumed everything in their path. Buildings, vehicles, people. Nothing was left behind. Yethis wanted to look away. She could not. These were her people. She had to witness what was happening to them. Then Keth made a strange sound. Half surprise, half fear. Commander, the human ships, they are here. That is impossible. You said 20 minutes. They accelerated. They pushed their engines beyond safe limits. They are here now. Yethis looked at the sensor display and felt her breath stop. The sky above Thessar 4 tore open. It was not like normal ships arriving from faster-than-light travel. Conquered ships slipped into reality gently, like a fish surfacing from water. These ships crashed through like a fist breaking glass. There were 17 of them. They were ugly. Yethis had seen conquered warships before. They were elegant things, beautiful curves and graceful lines. These human ships looked like they were built by angry people who did not care about beauty. They were dark gray metal covered in weapons. Their hulls were scarred and dented from old battles. They looked like they had been through hell and had decided they liked it there. The largest ship moved to the front of the formation. It was massive, bigger than any Concorde vessel Yethis had ever seen. Weapons covered every surface. It looked like someone had built a city and then covered it with guns. A transmission came through on all frequencies. Every communication device on the station, on the planet, and probably on the Drak ships received it at the same time. The voice was female, human. It spoke in the common galactic language, but with a strange accent. Unidentified hostile forces. You are attacking a civilian population. You have 30 seconds to stop your assault and withdraw from this system. If you do not comply, we will destroy you. Yethis stared at the speaker. No one talked to the Drak like that. No one. The Drak did not negotiate. They did not respond to threats. They had consumed 17 civilizations. They feared nothing. The 30 seconds passed. The Drak did not stop. They did not slow down. They did not even acknowledge the message. They just kept killing. Time is up, the human voice said. There was no anger in it, no excitement. Just a calm statement of fact. Then the humans attacked. Yethis had studied military history. She had seen recordings of battles between the Concorde and various enemies. She thought she understood what war looked like. She was wrong. The human ships did not form neat lines like Concorde fleets. They scattered in all directions, moving in patterns that seemed random but were clearly coordinated. They fired weapons that Yethis could not identify. Some were beams of light that cut through Drakh ships like knives through paper. Some were missiles that exploded with impossible force. Some were things she had no name for. A Drakh carrier ship, one of the largest in their fleet, turned to face the human flagship. It was a monster of living metal, 3 times the size of the human vessel. It opened its weapons and prepared to fire. The human ship accelerated directly toward it. "What are they doing?" Keth asked. Yethis did not answer. She watched as the human flagship crashed into the Drakh carrier at full speed. The impact was visible from space. Both ships crumbled together in a ball of fire and twisted metal. They destroyed their own ship," Keth said with shock. "They killed themselves to kill the enemy." But then Yethis saw something emerge from the explosion. The human flagship was still there. Damaged, burning, but still moving. It had punched completely through the Drakh carrier and come out the other side. "Impossible," Yethis whispered. The battle continued. The humans fought like nothing Yethis had ever seen. When their ships were damaged, they did not retreat. They kept fighting. When their weapons ran out, they used their ships as battering rams. One small human vessel was surrounded by 5 Drakh fighters. Instead of trying to escape, it flew into the middle of them and detonated its own reactor. The humans were not just willing to die. They seemed to welcome it if it meant taking enemies with them. "Commander," Keth said slowly, "I think I understand now why the galaxy quarantined them." Yethis nodded. She understood too. The humans were not monsters because they were cruel. They were monsters because they simply refused to stop. No matter the cost, no matter the sacrifice, they would keep fighting until they won or until nothing was left. And right now, that terrifying determination was aimed at the Drakh. For the first time in hours, Yethis felt something other than despair. She felt hope. The battle lasted 43 minutes. Yethis would remember every second of it for the rest of her life. She would tell the story to her children and grandchildren. She would record it for the historical archives. And every time she described what happened, people would think she was exaggerating. She was not. The Drakh swarm had 400 ships when the battle began. They had consumed 17 civilizations with those ships. They had never lost a major engagement. They were the most feared force in the galaxy. The humans had 17 ships. In the first 5 minutes, the humans destroyed 60 Drakh vessels. They did not fight like Concord forces. Concord ships exchanged fire at long range, carefully calculating each shot, preserving their own resources. The humans charged directly into the enemy formation and started killing at close range. Yethis watched a human destroyer, smaller than most Drakh fighters, weave through the enemy fleet like it was dancing. It was taking hits constantly. Its shields failed in the second minute. Its armor was being torn apart, but it kept moving, kept firing, kept killing. By the time it finally exploded, it had destroyed 14 enemy ships. "Their pilots," Keth said with wonder in his voice. "Look at how they fly. They do not hesitate. They do not retreat. They just keep attacking." It was true. Every human pilot seemed to have the same approach: maximum aggression, minimum self-preservation. When a Concorde pilot's ship was badly damaged, they would withdraw to save themselves. When a human pilot's ship was badly damaged, they found the nearest enemy and crashed into it. The Drakh did not know how to handle this. Their entire strategy was based on fear. They attacked with overwhelming numbers and brutal force. They expected their enemies to run or surrender, but the humans did neither. In the 15th minute, the human flagship, still damaged from its earlier ramming attack, engaged the Drakh command cluster. This was where the swarm's leaders controlled the battle. 5 massive carrier ships surrounded by dozens of smaller escorts. A Concorde fleet would have approached carefully. They would have weakened the defenses with long-range fire. They would have tried to minimize their own losses. The humans flew straight in. Yethis watched the flagship take hit after hit. Sections of the ship were on fire. Parts of its hull were falling off. It should have been dead 10 times over. But it kept coming, and as it got closer, it deployed something new. "What is that?" Keth asked. Small pods launched from the flagship's damaged hull. Hundreds of them. They flew toward the Drakh carriers and attached themselves to the living metal surface. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the pods exploded, but these were not normal explosions. The fire did not spread outward. It spread inward. The Drakh carriers started collapsing in on themselves, crushed by invisible forces. Within seconds, all 5 carriers were gone, replaced by tiny balls of compressed matter. Weaponized gravity, Yethis said quietly. They built weapons that create artificial gravity wells. The galaxy had theorized such weapons were possible. No one had ever built them because they were considered too dangerous and too difficult to control. The humans had apparently decided that dangerous and difficult were not good enough reasons to stop. With their command cluster destroyed, the Drakh swarm fell into chaos. They had always relied on central coordination. Their individual ships were deadly but stupid. Without leaders, they started attacking randomly, sometimes hitting each other. The humans did not give them time to recover. In the 28th minute, a human cruiser suffered critical damage. Its engines were destroyed. Its weapons were offline. It was dead in space. A normal crew would have abandoned ship. The human crew did not. Yethis watched the crippled cruiser activate its remaining thrusters and slowly turn toward the largest surviving Drakh formation. It took several minutes to get there, taking hits the whole time. When it finally reached the center of the enemy group, it detonated its main reactor. The explosion destroyed the cruiser and 22 Drakh ships around it. The human crew had chosen to die so they could take more enemies with them. By the 35th minute, the Drakh had lost over 200 ships. The humans had lost 4. The surviving Drakh were not fighting anymore. They were trying to escape, but the humans did not let them. Every retreating Drakh ship was hunted down. The humans seemed to understand something that the Concord had never accepted. If you let the Drakh escape, they would come back stronger. They would learn from this battle. They would adapt and return with better weapons and new tactics. The humans were not going to let that happen. In the 43rd minute, the last Drakh ship exploded. The battle was over. The swarm that had consumed 17 civilizations had lost 60% of its fleet in less than an hour. The survivors had fled into deep space, scattered and broken. It would take them decades to rebuild, if they ever could. Yethis sat in her chair and tried to understand what she had just witnessed. 17 human ships had done what entire Concord armadas could not. They had broken the Drakh. Commander, Keth said, "We are receiving a transmission from the human flagship." Yethis took a deep breath. The battle was over, but something else was beginning. The humans had saved her people. Now she had to find out what they wanted in return. "Put it through," she said. The human voice came through the speakers. It was the same woman from before. "Thesser Station, this is Admiral Sarah Chen of the Terran Defense Force. The hostile fleet has been neutralized. We are deploying rescue and medical teams to the surface. Do you require assistance?" Yethis blinked. That was not what she expected. She expected demands, threats, conditions. Instead, the humans were offering help. "Yes," she said slowly. "We need everything you can give us." "Understood, help is on the way." Chen out. The communication ended. Yethis looked at Keth. Neither of them knew what to say. The monsters had saved them. And now the monsters were offering to help them rebuild. Nothing made sense anymore. The human shuttle landed on Thessar 7 3 hours after the battle ended. Yethis watched it descend through the thin atmosphere of the moon. It was a small craft, clearly designed for carrying people rather than weapons. This surprised her. After what she had seen the humans do in combat, she expected everything they owned to be covered in guns. She stood at the station's landing pad with Keth and 2 other officers. They were all nervous. This was the first formal contact between the galaxy and humanity in 200 years. Whatever happened next would change everything. The shuttle door opened. A woman stepped out. Admiral Sarah Chen was smaller than Yethis expected. Humans were supposed to be tall and frightening. This woman barely reached Yethis's shoulder. She had gray hair cut short and a face covered in old scars. Her uniform was simple and practical, dark blue with a few symbols that Yethis did not recognize. But her eyes, Yethis would never forget those eyes. They were the eyes of someone who had seen terrible things and had learned to do terrible things in response. There was no cruelty in them, just a deep, quiet certainty. Chen walked forward and stopped in front of Yethis. For a moment, neither of them spoke. "Station Commander Yethis?" Chen asked. "Yes, I am Yethis. Thank you for what you did." Chen nodded. "We picked up a distress signal. People were in danger. We came to help." She said it simply, like it was the most obvious thing in the world. "But we are not your allies," Yethis said. "We are not even supposed to talk to you." The quarantine. We know about the quarantine. Chen's voice was calm. We have known for a long time. We understand why the galaxy is afraid of us. This surprised Yethis. You know? How? Chen smiled slightly. It was a strange expression on her scarred face. We are not stupid, Commander. We figured out we were being watched a long time ago. We found the observation satellites. We intercepted the communications. We know exactly what the Concord thinks about us. And you are not angry? Angry. Chen seemed to consider the question. No. We understand. 200 years ago, we were dangerous in ways we could not control. We fought each other constantly. We built weapons without thinking about consequences. We were like children with too much power. She paused. In some ways we still are. Yethis did not know what to say. She had expected the humans to be either monsters or victims. She had not expected them to be self-aware. But things have changed, Chen continued. We have had 200 years to grow up. We still fight. We still build weapons. But we have learned to point our aggression outward instead of at each other. We have learned to work together when it matters. The way your crews fought, Yethis said quietly. The way they sacrificed themselves. I have never seen anything like it. Chen's expression became serious. We lost 4 ships today. Over 2,000 people. They knew they might die when they answered your signal. They came anyway. Why? Because someone was in trouble. Because innocent people were dying. Because that is what we do. Chen looked up at the stars. We are not good people, Commander. We know that. We have done terrible things to each other and to our world. But we have also learned something important. The universe is full of dangers. The Drakh. Other things even worse. If we do not protect each other, no one will. Yethis felt something shift inside her. For 200 years, the galaxy had seen humans as monsters to be feared. But standing here, talking to this scarred woman who had just saved millions of lives, she saw something different. Humans were monsters, but they were monsters who had chosen to protect the weak instead of preying on them. They had all that creativity, all that aggression, all that terrifying determination, and they used it to answer distress calls. What happens now? Yethis asked. Chen reached into her uniform and pulled out a small device. It looked like a communication unit. We are going to leave soon. Our presence here will cause political problems for your people. The Concord will not be happy that you contacted us. No. Yethis agreed. They will not. But we want you to have this. Chen placed the device in Yethis's hand. It is a direct communication link to our fleet. If you ever need help again, if the Drakh come back or if anything else threatens your people, use it. We will come. Yethis looked at the device. It was small and simple. It did not look like much, but she knew what it represented. You would help us again, even knowing we might not help you in return? Yes. Chen said it without hesitation. We do not help people because we expect something back. We help because it is right. Because we know what it is like to be alone and afraid, and to have no one coming to save you. She turned and began walking back to her shuttle. Then she stopped and looked back. One more thing, Commander. The galaxy has been afraid of us for 200 years. Maybe that was wise. Maybe it was not. But here is what I want you to remember. We have been watching you too. We have seen how the Concord works. We have seen the good and the bad. And we have been waiting for someone to give us a chance. A chance to do what? Yethis asked. Chen smiled. It was the same predator's smile. But now Yethis saw the warmth in it. A chance to show you what we really are. Not monsters. Not saviors. Just people who refuse to let innocent beings die when we can do something about it. She climbed into her shuttle. The door closed. A moment later, the craft lifted off and flew toward the waiting human fleet. Yethis stood on the landing pad for a long time, holding the communication device in her hand. Behind her, Keth cleared his throat. Commander, what do we do now? Yethis looked at the device, then at the stars where the human ships were disappearing. She made a decision. We tell the truth, she said. We tell the Concord everything that happened here, and we tell them that the galaxy has been wrong about humans for 200 years. They will not believe us. Maybe not at first, but eventually, they will understand what I understand now. She turned to face her crew. We called for help, and monsters answered, but they were the kind of monsters who protect the weak instead of destroying them. And that makes all the difference. The human fleet jumped to faster than light speed and vanished. But Yethis knew they were still out there, watching, waiting, ready to answer the next call. The galaxy had been afraid of the wrong things for too long. It was time for that to change.